Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Nancy, the Yarny Bookkeeper, and as soon as I get my act here together, we'll get started. I just realized that I didn't click the go live button, and I've been talking to myself for the last couple of minutes. Yay, that has been the type of day that I have had. So thanks everybody for being here today as we talk about thinking of ditching the spreadsheets and using QuickBooks or some other software for your bookkeeping needs. Before we get down to business, I have a few housekeeping type things. First, if you're watching this replay and have a question, please go ahead and either tag me or put in the hashtag replay as the first thing in your question. Okay. Either of those will make sure that I see stuff quickly and can answer any questions or concerns that you guys have. So next, I'd like to take a minute to tell you about myself. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Nancy Smith. I'm a software developer by day and a career bookkeeper. Now, don't go freaking out over that. I'm also a yarn addict. My husband says my yarn stash is big enough to open my own shop. How's that? Eesh. And I'm also a handmade business owner, just like many of you. I also have to warn you, I am super outspoken, like super outspoken. So by the time you leave this session, you're either going to love me, hate me, maybe tolerate or respect me, and you might even want to come find me and feed me rabid squirrels. So there's that whole lovely little intro. Let's talk about why I'm here today. 2019 is over and tax time is quickly approaching. For many of us, this is the scariest time of year that there is. The good news is you've still got a couple of months left to prepare. Now's the perfect time to start getting your bookkeeping under control and maybe even get it better organized for 2020. Maybe your business really grew in 2019 and things got out of control and you couldn't keep up. Maybe your bookkeeping was just something you kept putting off. Maybe you even downloaded a spreadsheet and got totally frustrated with it. Perhaps you couldn't make that spreadsheet you downloaded work for you, no matter how hard you tried. And you just couldn't help but think there has to be a better way. Whatever's going on, know this. If you have a business, you must do bookkeeping. So before we get going, I'd like to be able to get to know you guys a little better because let's face it, I'm sitting here on the other side of my computer screen and I can't see you. You can see a little picture of me over here in the corner and all of my lovely disarray for the day. But if you help me to get to know you a little better, I can figure out where I need to focus. So how many of you are makers? Just type an M in the comments. How about designers? Type a D. How many of you are both a maker and a designer? Just type a B in the comments. How many of you sell in multiple places? Say, your website, you sell on Ravelry, you sell on Etsy. Maybe you sell on the old Craftsy, what is it, Blueprint platform now. You know, if you sell in multiple places, type in a P. Here's my favorite question. How many of you absolutely positively detest bookkeeping? Go ahead, type a D in the comments. How about how many of you haven't started your 2019 bookkeeping? Type it in. Don't worry, nobody's going to judge you. Bookkeeping is tough stuff, okay? And last, how many of you are up to date on your bookkeeping for 2019? Just type a U in the comments. Oh, perfect. Thanks so much. So, did you know that there's no one bookkeeping system that's right for everyone? That real business and financials include two main reports, a profit and a loss, and a balance sheet? And did you know that it can take roughly 15 different spreadsheets to create real financials? Each. So if you're struggling with that simple 1 or 2 page spreadsheet that you downloaded from somewhere, now you know why you're having issues with it. These are only 3 of the many reasons why spreadsheets were never designed to replace software for your bookkeeping needs. But now you're probably wondering, okay, so which should I choose? Well, whether you use spreadsheets or software, your bookkeeping system has to be flexible, meaning it's something that you will continue to use as your business grows. It's got to be easy to use, something that you don't have to spend a lot of time fussing with. It needs to meet your needs. You know, track at least 99% of the things that you want or need to track. It has to grow with your business. Now, you know, when you start to think about software, it has a lot of functionality. So while you might not need a specific functionality today, you can't predict the future. It needs to take the least amount of time to use so you can get back to doing what you love to do. And it has to allow for the least amount of data entry errors that's caused by having to enter the exact same numbers in multiple spreadsheets. But none of this is going to work without you. You absolutely have to make a commitment to yourself and your business to do your books at least once a week, or you'll be tempted to throw everything into a box where it'll pile up, and then you'll have a big mess on your hands that you won't like at the end of the year. So let's do a little bit of comparison. Okay. First, spreadsheets. Let's talk about the pros. Okay, this is all pretty basic stuff. You know, the spreadsheets are either already installed on your computer or they're free. Think Google Sheets. Everybody says it's super easy to use spreadsheets. You may already know basic formatting and formulas, and CPAs and accountants like them because, well, they don't have to learn anything new and they get to see every detail about your business. Now, the cons. Spreadsheets are cumbersome. They were never intended to be or replace bookkeeping software. You have to enter the same information in multiple places. And we'll see this in just a few minutes. You have to be careful not to break formulas. That's one of the biggest issues with spreadsheets, is that it's super easy to break or even delete a formula, and then you've got a big mess. Maybe you might even need to learn about formatting and formulas. So there's the spreadsheet side, and that's just kind of like the top ones. Let's talk about bookkeeping software. The pros. Well, you enter the information once. It updates multiple places for you without any extra work on your part. You don't have to learn formulas or formatting. It's easy to utilize additional features as your needs change and your business grows. It's easy to add something new on the fly, like a new account or a new item or whatever. Whereas with a spreadsheet, we've got to go back and we've got to insert rows, and you're going to have to insert those new things that you want to keep track of in all the different places that thing needs to appear. And you can generate lots of reports to help with business decisions at the click of a button. Now, the cons. Okay, I'm not going to lie. Software costs money. There's also a learning curve, and there's a whole bunch of choices. Choices, choices, choices. So software can be totally overwhelming. And I'm going to try and keep it super simple, or at least I hope so. Basically, there's two types of software, online or cloud-based, where you use it through an internet browser. So while you could use it with your phone or tablet, I'd highly recommend that you use your computer when you're working with it so you can see everything that's on the screen, okay? So you don't miss anything. And with online or cloud-based software, you pay a monthly fee, or you're renting it for as long as you use it. Now, desktop or local software, this is where the software is actually installed on your computer, and you can't use it with your phone or tablet. Pricing for desktop software varies. There's usually an upfront price and then a price for upgrades. With some software, it can be a one-time investment that you could use for years. Now, I'm just going to hop over to the YouTube broadcast. Perfect. Thanks, you guys, for attending. All right, so let's get back to this. Windows or Mac. Some software only runs on a Mac computer. Some desktop software only runs on a Windows machine. Cloud-based or online programs will run on either a Mac or Windows. And you can run Windows-based programs on a Mac using Parallels or Boot Camp. And you can run Mac-based software on Windows using another plugin, which I totally forgot what that one is, but I know it can be done. Okay, so let's talk about pricing. Pricing and versions is going to drive you nuts. And while I'm not here to sell you software, I do want to mention that if you're interested in QuickBooks, I can most of the time get you a better deal on the prices that are shown here on this slide. But you'll need to order it through me. So shoot me an email at hello@yarnybookkeeper.com and tell me what you think you'd like, and I'll put together a price quote and send you an order form through my quote unquote day job at the software business. So QuickBooks Online comes in 5 different versions. Yeah, 5. Each of them offer different features. Now, pricing changes frequently because Intuit, the folks who make QuickBooks, is always running specials. So you have to read the fine print about pricing really carefully, okay? And if you need to track inventory, you'll need the Plus or Advanced versions. So, for example, the price of each of the QuickBooks Online version shown is 50% off for the first 3 months. Then you're going to pay the full retail, and that's that number that's up here that's got a line through it, okay, for as long as you use that version or until it changes their pricing structure. So let's take a look at the Plus version, and let's do some math. Yeah, I know. I'm a bookkeeper. What can I say? I love math. So we're going to pay $35 a month for the first 3 months. That gives us $105. Then we're going to pay $70 a month for the next 9. Okay, that's $630. So the total cost for the first year of use is $735. Okay, that's going to really eat into your yarn budget, let me tell you. Now, year 2 and forward, you're going to pay $840 per year. Okay, now I'm going to also be really honest here. I'm not a fan of online bookkeeping and accounting software because you need an amazing internet connection, which I don't have living back here in the sticks in Vermont. Plus, I don't like the idea of renting software. It's way too expensive in the long run, okay? So these versions will run Windows or Mac. All you need is that amazing internet connection and be able to justify $735 for the first year and then $840 a year for each year afterwards. So now let's talk about QuickBooks Desktop. If you run a Windows computer, you can choose from Pro or Premier. If you have a Mac machine, there's a QuickBooks for the Mac version. Now, again, pricing changes frequently, and you need to read that fine print, okay? So see these Plus versions? You've got a Pro Plus and a Premier Plus. Okay, that Plus means it's an annual subscription, okay? So you're going to pay $199.95 for the first year, and then each year after that, you're going to pay $299.95 or whatever the going retail is at that point. When you look at just the standard Pro or Premier, you have a one-time payment of $299.95, and you can use that same version for up to 3 years, okay, before you have to do any sort of upgrade. Now, you can use that same version a whole heck of a lot longer if you don't want to have your bank or credit card feeds automatically downloaded into QuickBooks, which is a whole nother topic because it never downloads correctly, especially for us who need to track project costs. Okay. Now, the Pro version it lets you track very simple inventory, like it will allow you to track your materials. As well as the QuickBooks for the Mac. It will allow you to track your materials only. Now, the Premier version, which is what I'm going to show you in action in just a few minutes. That lets you track inventory of materials and finished items. Now that one will run you $500 up front. Okay. You can use that version for 3 years before having to upgrade. And then if you want your bank and credit card feeds to download, you'll need to purchase a new version at whatever the going rate is. Okay. But no matter what, that's a whole heck of a lot cheaper than that $735 for the first year of QuickBooks Online. Oh, sorry, I got a wicked tickle in my throat. Okay. Now, my personal preference is obviously QuickBooks Premier, and that's why I'm going to show it to you here. So there's also a whole slew of other bookkeeping and accounting software programs out there that I know of, but I've never used. So these are just some, and it's not even an all-inclusive list. Or, you know, maybe you just think you're going to say, out of hell with it, I'm not going to do my books. I'm going to hire somebody to do it for me. Well, okay, maybe you're the CPA who does your taxes, offers a bookkeeping service, or you go out and you hire an independent bookkeeper. Okay, both of those options are going to cost you money. When you have someone doing your bookkeeping for you, make sure that they understand your business and will provide you with detailed weekly or monthly reports so that you can keep an eye on what's going on with your business. Now, when I said they both cost money, I'm talking anywhere between $50 and $200 per hour. And sometimes they'll even give you like a flat fee per month. But no matter what that flat fee per month is, you're going to have a heart attack. But it's just an option. And you're going to have to send them detailed copies of everything and make lots of notes, because the last thing you want them to do is make an assumption, and nobody other than you is going to know your business the way you do. Okay, so enough about talking about basic differences between spreadsheets and software. Let's move on to, hopefully, what's the real reason that you're here today. And that's to talk about 3 major bookkeeping pain points for handmade or creative business owners. Now, things are going to get a little messy here because I have a whole bunch of windows open in the background. And as we go through this, I'm going to be switching in between windows. So if you hear me swear a little bit, it's because I either didn't share something correctly or I grabbed the wrong thing. So, major pain point number 1, keeping track of inventory. Everybody's favorite thing, right? Well, okay. So let's just assume for a minute that you've been reading my blog this month. January, I have been focusing on inventory and cost of goods. So in one of my blog posts, I said, inventory consists of materials and supplies that you keep on hand to make your finished items with. Inventory is also all of those finished items that you have stored in a closet or totes that are destined to be sold at craft fairs. Maybe you sell them out on consignment, stuff that you have listed up on Etsy. All of those finished items are inventory. Inventory is also your WIPs, and that one is a whole heck of a lot harder to keep track of. Okay, but you need to know that what all of those things cost when you buy the individual materials, and you need to know what it costs you to make that finished item. But inventory is sort of a black hole. That's because we can't expense or deduct the cost of the materials and supplies in the year that we buy them. Inventory is an asset, and it's tracked on our balance sheet, and it requires a lot of detail to keep track of. Now, while it seems unfair, we have to wait until the year that we sell the finished item before we can deduct the cost of the supplies that we use. And that's when it comes over to our profit and loss and hits cost of goods sold. So let's say you bought $100 worth of yarn in December to just put in inventory. You can't deduct that $100 in 2019. You have to wait until you make something and then you sell the something before you can deduct the cost of any of that yarn that you bought in December and used in the finished item. So, does that all make sense? I hope the hell I'm not boring you. I really like an interactive webinar, much better. Everybody out there, Diana, Julie, Christina, are you still there? Just wave, do something, let me know that I haven't sent you off into sleepy time, okay? Uh-oh. Let me refresh my screen over here. Sorry, I just hit the wrong stupid tab on my browser. Hold on. There I am. Well, you should feel lucky that I didn't drop the F bomb. It's going to take a minute for it to refresh. Here we go. Okay, all back on track. So first, let's talk about doing inventory using spreadsheets. And hold on just a sec while I share that window. And I hope to heck you're going to be able to see it. So hold on just a sec. I just lost my browser. You know, sometimes when you're doing these webinars, it's like you need 99 hands. So let me make sure that this is coming through correctly. Nope, hold on. Yay, there we go. Well, maybe not. Application window. There we go. Here we go. Sorry, I have about 15 open. So hopefully now you can see this lovely spreadsheet. Yep, there it is. And I do have it full screen on my machine. It just wants to keep me down here in the corner, and I ended up taking up more room than I want to. So this is a spreadsheet that I developed. It's a horrid thing, okay? It is just horrid. There's a whole bunch of information that you have to keep track of. You got to keep track of the date that you bought something, the brand and the name of whatever it was you bought, the colorway, how many skeins you purchased or have on hand, the number of yards or meters in each skein, number of ounces or grams per skein, total yards or meter that you purchased. And the spreadsheet, you fill in the pink areas, and the rest of it will calculate out. But you need to know the cost that you paid, and the cost of how you sell it. Okay, so you think most of us, we buy yarn, it comes in a skein. Maybe some items use an entire skein, other items only use a partial skein. So we need to know that cost per yard. Okay. Then we need to know how much we used in finished items, which is later going to be our cost of goods, how much we removed from inventory for personal use, how much we gave to charity, total number of yards that we removed from inventory throughout a year, the total cost removed from inventory throughout the year, and then the biggie, we need to know how many yards we have left. Okay, really important. And we need to know the running balance of our inventory. So that's half of the equation. The other half of the equation is we need to know the full retail price for that skein of yarn. Okay, because when we sell it and we incorporate it into our finished item, we need to know that, you know, if somebody wants another whatever done with the same yarn, that we're not going to lose our shirt because we may not be able to get it on sale. So those are all the pieces that you have to track, and that's just in keeping track of your materials. Okay, so let's say out of this Hobby Lobby, I love this cotton, I took 50 yards out to make a grandmother's favorite dishcloth. Okay, so I'm going to remove 50 items or 50 yards, which was 85 cents in cost. So I'm reducing the overall value, dollar value of my inventory. I also need to come up here and make sure that I indicate how many yards I have used, so I know how many yards of turquoise that I have left. So then I've got to hop over to yet another spreadsheet, okay, which is going to keep track of my finished items. So I made the grandmother's favorite dishcloth. It cost me 90 cents to make it. maybe I took that out and gave it to my daughter for Christmas. Okay, so now I'm taking that out of inventory. So whether you're tracking materials or finished items, there's always an in and an out, and you have to have that running balance. If you make your items and put them on consignment, well, there's another spreadsheet. You need to know what finished items you have on each place in consignment. You need to know what it cost you to make it, okay? Again, the in and the out. So here I put in a virus shawl. It cost me $17.37 to make. Therefore, the running balance in my inventory is $17.30. I did a dishcloth, cost me 90 cents to make it. But, oh crap, you know, I had it on consignment and somebody spilt stuff all over it, or somebody walked out the door with it. Okay, so I have to remove that from my inventory, that cost of 90 cents. So now my inventory is down to $16.47. Now, when you're tracking inventory on consignment, you want to also keep track of what that normal retail price that you're going to sell it for. You're going to have to deduct out your consignment fees so that when you actually sell it, you know that you have first income of $75 and then a consignment fee of $25, which means ultimately you have $50 worth of income and $17.37 worth of costs. Everybody with me? Yes, it is. Julie, this is newer. I have been beating this stinking spreadsheet to death. You know, because it's like the first pass, no matter what, you never get everything. And it's like, oh my God, I forgot to add ba 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 ba. So yeah, spreadsheets are always evolving, and that's one of the issues with them. You will never have the perfect spreadsheet from the get-go. Uh-oh, Diana, you needed coffee. I must be boring the hell out of you. So that was our inventory in Excel. So that's 3 spreadsheets to track materials, 1 to keep track of the finished items that, let's say, you have ready for a craft fair, and another spreadsheet to keep track of inventory finished items that you have out on consignment. Now, let's say you have things in 3 different consignment shops. You need to know what item you have where. So add 2 more spreadsheets to this. You know, pretty soon you're going to be spreadsheeted to death. So there we go. Enough on spreadsheets. So next, I want to show you how to do inventory in QuickBooks. And I'm going to try and make this just a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to come back here and I'm going to share my screen. So I want to do an application window, and here we come with QuickBooks. Now I just want to make sure that, there we go. So in QuickBooks, our inventory first comes into what QuickBooks calls its item list. And this is the Premier version. And the Premier version, even the Pro for Windows and the Mac version, have a special item called an inventory part. Okay, so the first thing we do is, here I have a simple skein of Premier Yarns home cotton in a colorway called Water Lilies. So I create that inventory part. Even though I buy it by the skein, I sell it by the yard. So that's called a unit of measure. All right. So then I put in my descriptions. And on the purchase side, I always put in the number of yards per skein. Okay, that way, when I buy it, which is what I'll show you next, QuickBooks will do the math and it will tell me how much that cost per yard is. Now, I already know what normal retail is. So I took normal retail and divided it by 105 yards plus sales tax plus shipping. So when I sell that, in order to make sure I recoup those full retail costs, I'm going to sell it at 0.038 cents per yard. When I buy it, eventually, it's going to end up in cost of goods sold. When I sell it, it's going to show up in merchandise sales. But when I initially buy it, it's going to go into an inventory asset account. Okay, so think of this as all of that initial information that you enter in your spreadsheet. So now I'm going to buy some of this, okay? And I don't think I have, but let me just make sure, because I can run a quick report right here and I can see how much of it I have in stock, okay? So no, I don't have it. I haven't bought any. So when I get ready to buy my yarn and record my whole big yarn purchase, I come into QuickBooks and I do banking and I write checks. And I'm going to choose who I bought this from. And let's say I bought it from Joann's. I'm going to hit my items and I'm going to say, well, today I bought water lilies. Okay. So let's just say, for giggles, I bought 2 skeins. So that's 210 yards. Now you can see why it's important to put in the number of yards in the purchase description. Okay. And I paid, let's see, $2.99 for each skein. So that's $5.98 that I paid. QuickBooks says, oh, it costs 0.02848 cents per yard. Perfect. Look at that. So now I have recorded my sale, but I'm going to backdate this to last year. Let's say I did it on 12/2/2019. So now I've just entered that transaction into my bookkeeping software. And I'm going to save and close it. So in QuickBooks, in my bank account, it took out the $5.98 that I paid to Joanne. In my inventory asset account, which shows up on my balance sheet, there's that $5.98 worth of that water lilies, okay? When I come over here to my items list, look at what it says to me. Oh my God, look at this. I've got 210 yards in inventory. This is what it cost me, that 0.2848. But this is what I need to sell it for. When I look at my profit and loss report and I change it to, I want to go to last month. There's no cost of goods sold because I only bought it and put it into inventory. When I look at that lovely balance sheet report and I change it as of last fiscal year, there's my $5.98 in inventory. So now let's say I made a dishcloth using 50 yards of that water lilies. So QuickBooks then lets me create an inventory assembly item. So here, whoops. And what I want to do is I want to create an inventory assembly item for this dishcloth. And it's a, hold on, it's a grandmother's favorite. Colorway is water lilies. So on my description, I put in grandmother's, sorry, I can't type today, favorite dishcloth, colorway God, I can't type. So now I'm going to say, okay, I'm taking, I used the water lilies yarn. I used 50 yards of it. QuickBooks says, okay, your cost to make that is $1.42 per hour, or $1.42. Now, there's a whole bunch of other things that you could put in here. Like if you wanted to, you know how a lot of people who do pattern testing, some of them will charge, 15 cents per yard. So let's say if you decided as your business model, you weren't going to come up with a fair hourly wage, you were just going to charge so much per yard to make an item. So you would create an item called owner rate, price per yard to make. Let's say you charged 15 cents an hour. When you sell all that, it's going into merchandise sales. See, this is the beauty of, and this really is going off to an income account. So don't worry about that. So now you're going to charge 50. Cost isn't going to show up because you can't pay yourself. And I think I may have done something crazy with this. Hold on. This is what I get for running my mouth and okay. So here we go. So cost is 0. And we want to put that off to member and owner investments. Okay. Okay, here we go. So sorry, now I got to go back and redo that whole thing. Now, the other thing that's nice about software, I can duplicate an item, okay? So that cuts down the amount of time that I have to spend in here mucking with things. Okay, and so here we go. So I'm going to take the water lilies. I am going to put in my 50 yards. I'm going to put in my owner's rate. And I'm going to put 50 in here. Right now, you won't see that, okay, because we can't pay ourselves. But you can also set a sales price. So I want to sell the dishcloths for $5 each. Okay, so here is my inventory assembly, and I'm just going to save it. So now I still have 210 yards, but I have this new dishcloth. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to build the assembly, which just means I am going to transfer all of this into my finished items inventory. So how many do I want to build? I want to build 1. I save it. Now you notice it automatically took those 50 yards that I used out of my available inventory. And I have a finished item. Pretty slick, huh? Now, it doesn't mean that my inventory has changed any. My total inventory is still $5.98. But look at this swanky little thing. I can run a physical inventory worksheet and it tells me what I have on hand. I have one grandmother's favorite dishcloth, and I have 160 yards of yarn left in inventory. So now what we've done is we have tracked our cost. We've tracked what we've added to inventory, not only for materials purchased, but materials used, and the value of our finished inventory. So now let's talk about when that stuff hits cost of goods, when we sell it, and we're also going to talk about that other awful thing that drives us all nuts, and that's sales tax. Okay, so let's say I was at a craft fair. And I will tell you, designers, you're going to do something just a slightly different than this. And I will show you that in just a second. But let's say we were at a craft fair. And let's also stop for a second and talk about sales tax, because that is just a horrid thing. But that's how much easier tracking inventory and costs are. So now I'm going to hop back here, and I apologize, guys. I'm running over. If you need to leave, please feel free to do so. You can come back and watch the rest of this in the replay. We're kind of at, where the hell are we? It's not giving me a timestamp. But you can come back and watch the rest of this if you want. Sorry, today has just been one of those horrid days. I wasn't supposed to have to work, but I've worked all day. So, sales tax tracking. It's super complicated. And that's a total understatement. There are 5 states that have no statewide or general sales tax laws. They're Alaska, Delaware, Montana, New Hampshire, and Oregon. As of July 2019, there is a total of 11,113 different sales tax jurisdictions in the other 45 states. Yeah, I know. I just heard you all suck in your breath. Now, sales tax laws changed drastically in June of 2018. Prior to 2018, we really only had to worry about collecting and remitting sales tax in our own home state, which was considered physical presence or the state that your business was located in. But since June of 2018, we could be required to collect and remit sales tax in all 45 states. And I know there has been a little bit of talk about all of this in Pam's group. And I know the big question is, isn't there any sort of provision or exemption for us little guys? Well, there is, but it doesn't mean it's an easy one. Okay, so each state has what's called a trigger. And a trigger can be either a specific dollar amount of sales or a specific number of transactions or any combination of the above within the last 12 months. So that means you're going to have to constantly keep track of this. Okay. So like here it is, January. I would need to look back at the last 12 months and see if I hit triggers in any state that I sold in. When February rolled around, I'd need to go back and look at the last 12 months worth of sales to see if I hit any of those triggers. Okay, so it's a perpetual thing. You know, so ouch. Once you reach the trigger for a specific state, then you've got to register your business with their department, tax department, as an out-of-state reseller, sign up for a sales tax account, begin to charge, collect, and remit sales taxes from that point forward, and file sales tax returns, even when you have no sales during a specific reporting period. So I know this is all probably, everybody's head's probably just rolling, right? So let's take a look at an example. You make knitted shawls and crochet amigurumi. Up until now, you've only been selling in your home state through craft fairs. But now you're branching out and you'll be selling a lot of both to customers in Vermont. Okay, now I know I live here, but let's just say you, wherever you are, you're now going to end up selling a lot of finished items to customers in Vermont. So Vermont has a trigger of $100,000 in sales or a total of 200 transactions or any combination of the above in the last 12 months. Okay. But shawls are tax exempt in the state of Vermont because they're considered clothing. And the amigurumi are taxable in Vermont and your home state. So just based on this little simple example, you need to track 4 different sales tax items and the amount of revenue for each of those 4 different categories. I won't even show you what the stinking spreadsheet looks like, because if you thought the inventory one was bad, oh baby, yeah, nope, ain't going there. You will be want to tracking me down and feed me rat poison or rabid squirrels. So obviously, keeping track just got way more complicated and you need better systems. Some states have multiple sales tax rates. They have a statewide, a county, and a local. If you're selling on multiple platforms, you have to keep track of the total sales made on all of those platforms. And as many of you are already realizing, if you sell on Etsy or Amazon, they're marketplaces and they're charging, collecting, and remitting sales tax, even if you personally haven't hit those triggers. So now you got to keep track of that crap too, because it is going to count. Okay. What happens when you're selling to customers in Vermont via Etsy, and you're also selling to customers in Vermont directly from your own website? Okay, so now you got two different revenue streams selling to the exact same state. So you got to keep track of the total sales to the state of Vermont, the total sales to your home state. You got to keep track of the home state sales tax that you collect. You have to keep track of what Etsy collected for sales tax. And if you're selling off your website, you have to keep track of your sales so that you know when you hit that trigger. Now, doesn't that sound like fun? Okay, so based on this big, huge flipping headache, I am going to stop sharing the spreadsheet and I am going to switch back to QuickBooks. So hold on just a second, and application and QuickBooks, and here we go. So in QuickBooks, there's a customer list. Now, if you think of your customer list instead of individual people, but rather where you're selling, okay, this is going to make it easier. And in your item list, QuickBooks allows you to set up all of these different sales tax items. So you got one for your home state, which is 5%. You know, maybe clothing is exempt in your own home state. So you want to make sure that there's a sales tax item for that. Now here we are, we're selling to Vermont. Well, when I set that up, it's not that we're collecting it yet, but we're keeping track for that trigger. So here's Vermont's sales tax rate, and that goes into effect once we've hit $100,000 or 200 or more separate transactions or any combination of the above. So let's say you had 200 transactions at $10 a piece. Obviously, it's not that $100,000, but you did hit that 200 transactions and you have to start keeping track. Yeesh. So here's Vermont clothing exempt. And Vermont also has several towns that have a local 1% option. So now let's talk about recording our income, the sale of that dishcloth, getting our income and our cost of goods sold on our P&L, and tracking sales tax all at the same stinking time. You ready for that? You still with me? I hope so. I can't hear any snoring, so I'm just going to assume you're all out there. So here we are. We are back in QuickBooks and we're going to record that sale. So let's say we sold the dishcloth to somebody in Vermont. We come to our sales to Vermont customer. We tell it we want to create a new transaction. Okay, QuickBooks gives us an invoice. We're going to take that Water Lilies dishcloth. We're going to sell it for $5. We want to say it's taxable, but for right now, we're only at that tracking stage, okay? So we save and close it. We receive our payment. We're good. So now, this happened in January. So instead of having to rifle back through a whole bunch of stuff in order to find all of the information that we need to record everything, it's all right here. Here's our $5 in income. Here's our $1.42 in supplies. Okay? Bing, bang, boom. We come back and we look at our inventory reports. Our finished item is gone out of inventory. We've got 160 yards left of the Water Lilies colorway. And our inventory is now valued at $4.56. So what do you think? I know it looks like a lot, but you know, it's so much better than having to go digging. And QuickBooks has this lovely sales tax liability report. And we want to say this calendar year to date. It says we had $5 in total sales. They should be taxable, and we are keeping track of that because at some point we are going to have to start collecting sales tax, and at that point it would calculate 6% of the $5 and tell you that your sales tax amount collected. Okay. I mean, it's beautiful. I wish I could show you an entire set of books. But the problem is with an entire set of books is it's much harder to see when things hit. And I also want to mention that sales tax that you collect is never shown on your profit and loss, okay? It's not your money. Sales tax is money that belongs to the government. If you had sales tax, it would show up on your balance sheet as an other current liability, meaning this is money that we collected. It's not our income. We're not going to be taxed on it. We're simply holding on to it for whatever state until it's time to submit that sales and use tax return. Now, the cool thing about the sales tax liability report is in QuickBooks, It's going to tell you everything that you need to not only submit your own report for your home state, but it's going to give you the information about whatever other state that you sell to. Now, I said designers would do things a little differently. Okay. So as a designer, you are going, you create a customer called pattern launches. And when you are ready to launch that pattern, you come in under this customer, you tell it you want to create an invoice. Let's say, okay, here we go. We're going to take another 50 yards of the water lilies out of inventory. Okay, so now we're going to take 50 yards out. But the difference is this time we're not putting in a sales price. We're just taking this out of inventory so that our costs will hit cost of goods. So now what you're going to do is you're going to put the pattern name down here. So this is pattern name. You record that. When we come back to our profit and loss, what was my date on that? Don't remember. Let's say this fiscal year. So now you can see we got $2.84 in costs without recognizing any additional income. Okay. So then when you're doing this, you're taking the inventory, the materials out of inventory because you have finished the sample for your pattern design. You are now ready to launch that pattern and you anticipate revenue for that pattern. So when you sell you could create a specific customer, or again, we could do sales to Vermont. We could create an invoice. And this time we were selling the pattern. Okay. So we're selling one, I don't know, let's say we're going to choose to sell it for $5. I didn't put a sales price in because I wasn't sure what I was going to do. Okay. But patterns aren't taxable in Vermont either, I don't think. So you just create an invoice. I like to use Yield for a lot of things, and I'll show you why in a second. So I'm going to do that. Save and close. I can customize the columns in QuickBooks to have it show me whatever I put in that memo field. So I don't have to go digging. I just don't have to go digging. I don't have to go searching through multiple Excel spreadsheets. Everything is right here at my fingertips. And now we have total sales of $10, $5 from the dishcloth, $5 from the pattern, and we've got $2.84 in material costs. So what do you think? What do you think? I know it looks kind of overwhelming and it looks pretty crazy. And it will, because I mean, I'm just using fictitious stuff in order to show you how to do something. Imagine working with your own information, your own finished items, your own patterns. You know, it would make so much sense. So if you've been thinking about getting rid of the spreadsheets, I do have a course, and let me just switch one more darn time between screen share. I swear I'm dizzy. Here we go. Called How to Design a Bookkeeping System for Your Handmade or Creative Business. I'm going to open enrollment on January the 27th. Enrollment will close on the 31st. The cost is $199.99. One-time fee gives you lifetime access. And the link is here. At the very first comment in the chat window is a link to go and download the slides from today's webinar. But if you think it's something that you're interested in, you know, whether you want to use spreadsheets or you want to go with software. Now, granted, there's no way I could demonstrate each and every piece of software that there is out there, but you can take what I'm teaching you about QuickBooks and apply it to other programs because they all kind of sort of work the same damn way. So you can bookmark that page. The doors will open on Monday. I decided to get oh so smart, which is being really sarcastic for oh so stupid, and switch email hosting providers. I got mad at MailChimp and I switched to MailerLite, and I did it this month. So everything is kind of in a state of stupid transition. But, you know, go ahead and if you're interested, sign up for that course. There is an Excel bookkeeping template that I created. It has roughly 15 different, and if you bear with me, I will stop sharing the slides and I'll show you what it looks like. Has roughly 15 or so different spreadsheets within a workbook. There it is. So you have your master reports. You have a profit and loss and a balance sheet report. And they're set up the way that real accounting software would do them. You have a spreadsheet for tracking income. You have a spreadsheet for tracking expenses and some cost of goods sold. A spreadsheet for your savings account, a spreadsheet for cash that you keep on hand, a spreadsheet for accounts receivable. Let's say you do a custom order and you insist upon a 50% deposit, okay? That means you have an accounts receivable. Full price is going to be at $200. You require a balance or a deposit of $100. You have a balance due of $100. That $100 is an accounts receivable. You're going to collect it at some point. There's going to be a spreadsheet for assets that your business owns, a spreadsheet for accounts payable, a spreadsheet for your credit card. If you sell gift certificates or offer gift certificates, well, there's a spreadsheet for that. Sales tax, but it's only based on you, the simplest of simple. Okay, you're selling in your home state through craft fairs, and you're just keeping track of what you're selling and how much the sales tax is. If you have a loan, a business loan, there's a spreadsheet for that. There's a spreadsheet for tracking owner investments and draws. There's a spreadsheet for calculating business use of home. Another one for keeping track of business mileage. And that's in addition to, well, and then there's all the inventory spreadsheets. So there you have it. I am open for questions if you guys have questions. I know I ran over by about 28 minutes. But if you have questions, feel free to ask them. I kind of feel like I pounded a whole bunch of stuff into your head in this hour, but unfortunately, that's what bookkeeping is. You know, it's not simple like everybody makes it sound like. When I won't even tell you what my books are like for the software business. And I do sell software to customers in all 50 states. So I'm doing that whole sales tax tracking thing and monitoring all of those triggers. Luckily, in any of the 12-month look back periods, I have not hit any of those triggers yet. I'm very close to hitting the trigger in California, but then I luck out because in California they don't tax software. New York is the next one that I need to watch out for. And I think I'm going to be okay. Maybe by the middle of the year, I will have to start filing sales tax returns in New York. And I will tell you, man, I am not looking forward to that. So anybody have questions? Or do you just want to go take some Advil? No questions? And Julie, whether you recreate 2019 in QuickBooks or not is kind of up to you. You know, I know you are like super busy. Can you really, I mean, if you have something somewhere and you're fairly confident with it, my personal thought is you probably don't have the time that it would require to recreate everything in QuickBooks. I would start by doing a year-end 2019 physical inventory and putting that into QuickBooks so that as you make and then sell, your inventory will increase and decrease the way it ought to. Does that help? Okay, folks, that's it. I am going to sign off. I have a dog who needs to go for a walk, and it's been a long day. So have a great day, ladies, and thanks so much for attending. I don't know who the other two folks are that are out there watching, but I really wish you would have popped in and said hi. Oh, Christina's out there somewhere. I bet I gave her a major headache. Remember, you can download these slides. And if you have questions, I would prefer you hit me up in my own group. But you can also hit me up in Pam's group if you want and just tag me with my name so I know that you're like out there shouting for me. So other than that, happy Friday, everybody. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you soon. Bye.